Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We are happy to welcome you on behalf of Canixor and Marché du Film. We are all here to explore new ways to interact and also to present project and XR works during this so special edition. A little reminder, you can also visit the Museum of Other Realities by downloading the app for free in the Steam store. The Museum of Other Realities is our dedicated VR space. You can experience our showcases organized with our partners. During this panel, you will be able to ask questions to the speakers using the Q&A box in your Zoom session in the menu bar. And just before giving the floor to Maciej, I'd like to precise that Marché du Film is one of the partners of this Immersify project which should have hosted the final demos of Immersify during Canixor before the COVID arrives and makes everything different. The project comes to end now, and it was really fruitful for us and exciting to work with all of you. So hope it will come to a follow-up perhaps. So let's now give the floor to Maciej Głowiak from PSNC to talk about Immersify. Please, Maciej.
Okay, thank you, Cecile. Welcome everybody. My name is Maciej Głowiak. I will lead the session today, and we will focus on the Immersify project and cutting-edge technologies for immersive and interactive content production. We have four short presentations and quite a very tight schedule, but I hope we'll be able to address some of your questions. As Cecile mentioned, you can answer them using Q&A button after each presentation. We will try to address at least one of them, and if we have some time at the end, we can address the others. So the first presenter today is Mauricio Alvarez Mesa, CEO from Spin Digital company from Berlin, and he will talk about technologies for the next generation of immersive media. Mauricio?
Thank you, Maciej. Hello, everyone. First need to... Okay, is my screen visible now?
Yes.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Maciej, for the introduction. So yes, I'm going to talk about technologies for immersive media. But the first part, I would like to do a short definition. So what we mean by immersive media. And if we take from a high level point of view, we mean media that seem to surround the audience. This is the first component. And the second one is that the audience, the spectator, feel completely involved. And I think we are, in this short presentation, I'm going to talk about how we can make these two elements of the immersive experience possible. But another important component is that we are going to talk about immersive media for large screen immersive environments, and not so much for, let's say, single users, as it can be in a head-mounted displays. So here we mean of immersive media for group audiences, using large screen technologies based on very high quality video, immersive audio, and also offering the possibilities of interactive and content and non-linear storytelling, which basically changed extends from the cinema experience, but it's different in a way that we are not looking anymore into a window, but we are inside the content, the space. And what I would like to discuss with you today is what are the technologies that are needed so that we can create this type of experience. So on the video side, we will need very high resolution. That's one of the requirements. And together with a wide field of view, this will help us to cover the entire visual field. So that's the part of surrounding the audience. And in addition, we need to have a 3D so that we can convey with stereoscopic techniques, realistic 3D representation of the world, but also expanded colors, enhanced luminance, so that we have a match with real colors and a more natural sense of light. In similar way, we need to have high frame rates so that we can reproduce a realistic sense of motion. And importantly, for this interactive part, we need to have low latency so that the interactions are natural for the audience and users. And from the audio part, we also have immersive audio, which is mostly the idea to have audio in the 3D space, so so-called 3D audio or spatial audio. And due to the time constraints today, I'm going to focus only on the first two elements, the high resolution and field of view. And always there is this question like, okay, but so do we really need so high resolution? Do we need 8K? Now we had before full HD TVs and now 4K. Do we need 8K TVs? And do we need more than 8K? Or even what's the maximum resolution of the human eye? So this is a very complex question in the sense that there is not a single resolution. The human eye, the human visual system has a complex interconnection between the retina and the brain, but researchers have found, like say, 3 resolutions in the human visual system. One is the basic one, is the reading acuity. That's to distinguish some symbols and some distance, and we can express this as 64 pixels per degree. But then there's the retina limit, what's really the limit on the retina capacity. And there is something called hyperacuity, which is the combined processing capability of the brain can even go beyond that limit. So then over time, when we have been moving from full HD to 4K and now to 8K, we have been using this increasing resolution to mostly increase the field of view, let's say from 30 degrees in full HD to now around 100 degrees in 8K. But at the same time, use part of this resolution increase to increase this pixel density so that we also have more detailed images. So we increase also the acuity of the image as well. So the point is, like, we're going to design one of these immersive environments. Then we need something around 100 degrees of field of view. And we want to keep the acuity clear so that we don't see the pixels of the screen, because also people are closer to the screens as we are talking about being inside the content, not far away looking at the window. So then we need at least 8K for the screen. But then if you want to do this in 8K, then we need something called 8K by 8K. And if we are talking about completely surrounding the audience with visual content, that means that we need to have a 360-degree video around the spectator. And this means something like within 3 to 4 times the resolution of the screen at 100 degrees. So basically, with some back of the envelope calculation, we arrived at something like 32K by 32K. We want to have high quality images in a large resolution immersive environment. And the question is this possible at all? And the answer is partially yes. We did some work in the Immersify project so that 16K playback is feasible today. Of course, compression is needed. Otherwise, we will need something like 1.2 terabytes per minute, which is very difficult to handle. But if we use a state-of-the-art implementation of the H.265 video codec, we can get this 16K content down to something like 3 gigabytes per minute, which is very easy to handle with the current systems. And with an optimized implementation of the video codec, we can play 16K in real time. And we did a few years ago in NAB 2018, together with Intel, a demonstration of doing this 16K playback from a single system, 2 years ago. But at that time was really to show that the capabilities of this potential capabilities of this format, but we didn't have any real 16K 360 content and so on. But what we did recently with the Immersify project was to develop a complete immersive media player that supports this 16K 360-degree video. We have this spatial developments for low latency interaction. And we implemented also spatial audio using Ambisonics up to 7th order. And we developed also some content, and my colleague Eric in the next talk will present more about how we did this 360-degree camera capture and laser scanning and point cloud renderings at 16K. And this content was presented in a couple of immersive spaces, the 8K video wall in PSNC and the Deep Space 8K in Ars Electronica. And also we planned a system that you can see here on the screen on the bottom side. It's a 12K immersive system with the curved screens that we plan to present at the Cannes XR this year, but was not possible due to the change of plans. And okay, but then, so what if we go, let's say what's beyond then this 360 video, what lies ahead? Well, on the one hand, so we have this discussion of degrees of freedom. So when we talk about 360-degree video, we are telling about these 3 degrees of freedom, so we can do this rotation inside the content. But there is a new format called 3DOF Plus that is 360-degree video plus motion parallax, so that we can have a better view representation of 3D with some small displacements inside the content. And then we have the full 6DOF, which is the translation displacement in a 3D space. And this goes to the idea of volumetric video, where basically we are going into this combination of video and 3D graphics so that we get the photorealistic part of video combined with the highly interactive part of the 3D graphics. But this is this new format. It's in early phases, and there is a lot of technology work being done on how to capture this content, how to process, compress, how to play it. And of course, at the end, those are tools, technology tools that are given to creative people so that they can enhance the stories that they want to tell. But we are really in the early days of this format. And I think that's all from my side, and I think I'm right on time. That's true, Maciej?
Yes, perfectly on time. So I think we have time for a question. I don't see any so far. So let me ask a question to you. You mentioned about big visualization installations, and what about head-mounted displays? Will they support 16K or more resolution in near future? How do you see it?
Well, yeah, that's also, I think, an important, a good question. What we have seen so far, let's say, in the past, is that the first 360 content that we saw some years ago was 4K and was developed for the first generation of head-mounted displays, but it was not really good quality. And right now we have 8K, which is good enough for the current head-mounted display generation. But there are some professional head-mounted displays that are going beyond that, those limits. And I think at some point there might be the required or the good display technology on the head-mounted display to match, in a sense, the capabilities of the large formats. So I think, yeah, head-mounted display technology is probably evolving slower than a lot of people expected, but we foresee that in the near future there will be head-mounted displays. In fact, right now there are some of them, some of the professional ones in the market that need more than 8K resolution.
Okay, so thank you for this answer. And I think that Eric Skotarczak from Poznań Supercomputing and Networking Center will speak more about content production and 360 video. So his talk is about new approach to immersive content production. Eric, please.
Hello, everybody. I need to share my screen, Maurizio, so please stop sharing. Yeah, thank you. I'm a content producer and responsible for software and hardware integration, so I will try to go very briefly and to give you a big picture of our productions and the tools about them. So let's start with the, let's say, casual, as in our terms, 8K and 8K time-lapse productions. We started 8K 5 years ago and started talking about 8K 7 years ago. And the only company that could provide us 8K cameras at that time with the complete system with the complete workflow was Sony. So we bought 4 8K cameras from them, also 3D solutions with stereoscopic rigs, and started to produce some content a bit earlier, but the main content was produced for the Immersify project. And some of the content that are worth showing you is, for example, a racetrack in Poznań with a camera car. We followed some race cars. As you can see, maybe in the lower right corner, we mounted our 8K camera with a very narrow lens to produce some, let's say, film looking like content, and the experiment went quite well. Actually, then we thought, let's make something more interesting. Let's go to the south of Poland, to the Karkonosze mountains, and we actually went there for one whole week to shoot clips for the Immersify project. And in about -10 to -20 degrees, we shot in total 5 separate clips. In very, very hard conditions, but it went astonishingly well. And the dailies were actually recorded from the camera drives to mobile hard drives, and we brought everything, lots of terabytes back to PSNC. Then after the mountains, we thought, let's go maybe to the north and to the Polish Sea, and we dived underwater. So we did some nice underwater pictures with our underwater enclosures, but actually I must admit it is in 6K, not in 8K, because only a Red Dragon camera could be fitted in that underwater enclosure. We did some improvements to that enclosure with our electronic labs, but as you can see, we have some nice footage from about 10 to 20 meters below the sea level, and we used it also for the Immersify project. But as we were there, we thought, let's take our 8K camera and do some 8K footage. So we also take our f/65 camera and did some nice sea sights there in 8K. That's, let's say, casual 8K, but time lapses, that are two different things. We can do time lapse with, of course, a photo camera. We have, so we use a Canon camera that has a 50 megapixel sensor, so it's beyond 8K. And we can do stereoscopic 8K image or panorama stitched image. And the resolution for a panorama image, that's about 14K in total, so horizontal resolution. And the two contents, we have several clips made by them. So here, for example, is a stitching solution, and the other way is a 3D production, for example, here from the sea. A nice 3D content that we produced was also in Poznań during the Ice Festival. Sculptures are doing some nice work during the whole day in ice cubes, and it's captured during a whole day in 3D with 50 megapixels. So it's nice to watch with quite nice details. All the offline content, because it's offline production, we can post-produce, and we have several tools and use several software programs to do it. So from Adobe Premiere, CC, Blackmagic, Resolve. We use also hardware color correction like Quantel Rio, a lot of audio production tools, and also some own solutions. So that's a whole spectrum of workflow solutions, but it's no time to do a talk about it. But we gain a lot of knowledge about that. But that was offline production. Let's go maybe for some online production. So I mean live 8K production. And we, as we bought the 8K system several years ago, we thought this system should have live output, which was not actually possible with any other company. Only Sony could provide an 8K output from the cameras. So as we have 4 of them, we can do something like a TV program, and we did several of them. The first one was for live streaming for the Ars Electronica Festival from Poznań to Linz, and we used our own, let's say, low latency encoder based on the NVIDIA codec, but all the streaming software was made by us, and it was a low latency, about 1 to 2 seconds delay from Poznań to Austria with 8K 60 frames per second and 5.1 channel sound. The other stream, also with 4 8K cameras, was done to Tokyo, to Japan, for the Interbi fair. So it was a 3-day long, with every day half an hour streaming, just like a TV program with hosts, with live video switching, of course. The only solution, the only change was a robot arm. We have a robotic arm that you can program to move the camera very precisely. So we put one of the 4 cameras on the robot arm to have some very nice movements for that TV show. A part of the 8K production, we do also some special shootings. So maybe non-standard things. Let's say like super slow motion and 3D or stereoscopic. We have 2 Phantom Flex 4K cameras that are cameras that can capture 1000 frames per second and full 4K resolution. They can go even higher to 2500 frames in HD, or maybe let's say 5 to 10,000 frames, but in quite lower resolution. And we did some nice shootings with 2 times 1000 frames in 4K. We have a biochemic institute, a friend of us, and we bought, well, so we gained from them some liquid nitrogen, and we shot some footage with flowers and Haribo jellies. Of course, we produced also some high frame rate content in 120 frames using these cameras for codec testing. That is quite nice looking footage. Very different approach was a project done with Teresa Schubert. She had a project called Immersive Minimalism, and she produced some nice 8K synthetic renders with music composed by our colleague from PSNC. And now coming to 360 VR and Ambisonic sound. Of course, we have some ready-made cameras like the Insta cameras, but we wanted to go higher, and we actually did our own 360 camera rig. That's a prototype with 8 4K cameras that are the casual Blackmagic Micro Studio 4K cameras, and they need external recorders, but in very high quality, 8 times 4K. Of course, that needs to be stitched, and we produced some music videos out of that. On the roof of our PSNC company, 10-bit HDR, 16K resolution in horizontal, 360 around view. So that was very good content for Spin Digital for their immersive player. Also with Ambisonic sound. The other content was a content produced in our very famous Okrągłak, that is a round building in Poznań, and it was ideal to produce 360 content because the building is actually round. As you can see on the video, now the building is round, so we had 8 musicians. Each camera could capture 1 musician, so it was quite nice, and it's a pity that I cannot show it to you and you cannot hear because the music is quite nice. And for the audio production, we use Ambisonics, of course, with 3rd order now, but we can go even higher to up to the 7th order. And we have our own Ambisonics installation in PSNC. Mostly we base on 25 channels, so 24 mid-high speakers and 1 sub-bass, arranged in 3 layers of height with 8 speakers on each layer. But we have more than 50 speakers and can do any constellation of speakers. We use plugins, VST plugins to calculate everything live. So it's not an offline production. It can be produced live and streamed live over platforms. Another VR approach, very different to the 360 cameras, is point cloud scanning. And we did some 16K renders of point clouds. We have a Faro scanner that is a very accurate scanner that can do 300 meters range with 0.2 millimeter accuracy. And we produced some scans, but worth mentioning is Atomic Shelter in Poznań. It was revealed I think 10 years ago, but it was preserved without any changes from the Cold War. And our colleagues scanned all the places and produced about 150 billion points out of that, and rendered it in 8K and 16K and 360 space. Of course, you can look around in every direction. And our colleague produced Ambisonic sound design for that, which is very nice to see and hear. Of course, you can rotate everything. And the other content, what actually joined everything. So the 8K video, the 360 video, point cloud scan, Ambisonic sound, that was a proof of concept educational project that we produced in the Cathedral of Poznań. We scanned the whole cathedral and produced even more points. So that was about 3,500 trillion points. And it was scanned from 42 positions. And also we produced some special software to allow the camera to move freely on the pixel space. That was also produced organ concert with 8K quality and ambisonic sound, and aerial footage from outside to look around and to have some nice footage from the cathedral. And what Maurizio said in his talk last week, we had a final demonstration of our Immersify project. Also with every technology joined together, we streamed live to deep space in Austria from our 8K cameras. We streamed live from 360, so 360 video was from 2 cameras with live editing software and additional 2D graphics overlaid. We had Ambisonic sound 5.1 and stereo mixes simultaneously made for that. And all the technologies went seamlessly through normal internet connections. And just ending, because my time is leaving, I will just show you our 8K screen from the behind. The magic is behind the screen. We use 12 projectors because our screen, as I think the only one, is a full 8K pixel accurate screen. So it's a full 8K resolution without compromises. And till now, we use 12 projectors because there is no projector solution for 8K. I mean, a real 8K system. So thank you very much, and I think you enjoyed that.
Okay, thank you, Eric. That was impressive. We had a question about volumetric video and interactive content, but our next presenter is Roland Haring, the technical director of Ars Electronica Future Lab, and he will talk about interactive and immersive content. So I hope he will address this question. Roland?
Yes, thank you very much. I have to share my screen, just a second. Okay. I hope that the presentation is visible, but
yes, it is. Go on.
Over here. Okay. Yeah, I would like to talk about mostly the content that we created with the technology that you just saw, and also talk about the challenges that come with that. So when you think about immersive media, what comes to your mind probably are head-mounted displays, because this is basically the standard device for immersive experiences, but they have fundamental shortcomings. So most of all, they are designed for single user interface, and therefore they are not designed for groups of people. And whenever you're doing presentations with multiple people at the same space, which what we refer to as basically as a co-located VR experience, then you have really a lot of shortcomings with head-mounted displays. And especially for larger audience presentations, and Ars Electronica, this is the institution where I'm coming from, we have a museum here in Austria, the Ars Electronica Center, and there we have a large VR installation for more than 50 people that are concurrently watching the space. I will talk about this later. But for us, this is a big challenge. And when you look actually at immersive interfaces that are out there, then you find that there is much more than just basically head-mounted displays. Scaling up to all different sizes. And this was for sure very interesting for us in this project also to explore how to bring immersive media and the technologies that you need to display this to environments like that. My talk is split in two parts. So this section now covers mostly challenges from dome theaters, and it builds on the work of my colleagues from the Shopping Visualization Center C, who are also partners of our project. And what they are looking on is immersive content for dome theaters. So this really also like possible to enhance these dome projections to 8K resolution, meanwhile also with stereoscopic projection. And you can do this with 6 4K projectors, as this had been done, for example, in Norrköping. And this also brings then a lot of challenges to the content production. So ideally, you would have content with 8K by 8K resolution in a fisheye format. And when you do a monoscopic projection, then it should be 60 Hertz, and for stereoscopic, it should be 120 Hertz. Especially when you try to do this interactively and you use real-time engines, then you cannot render directly to fisheye. So what you're doing there is you're rendering to cube maps, and these cube maps represent the surrounding of the viewer, and this cube map is then transformed basically to the fisheye format that you need. But each side of this cube map needs to be 4K by 4K. So you see that in total, there's quite a lot of resolution which needs to be rendered in order to achieve real-time rendering. And this is also basically then the requirement for pre-rendered video content, which is merged basically into interactive environments or projects. And what they have been working on, for example, is Adventure Dome, which is basically a 3D application for children, which is built on the Unity 3D engine. And there they had basically been experimenting with offline and online rendering. And this is a piece which can be seen at the Visualization Center and is presented there meanwhile. And there are 2 versions of it. One is basically a Unity version, and the other one is a rendered at higher resolution, offline rendered video version. And additionally, also, they had been looking at OpenSpace, which is a software for rendering basically images of the universe. So which is also used a lot in dome theaters, as they have basically this origin of the planetarium, and always a very important part of the content there. But there you also have huge challenges with real-time data, especially if this is really high resolution geometric data, as for example, it is. There's an image from Mars, which is based on the NASA data. And there you really get to the edge of what's possible with real-time rendering. And for that also, they worked on basically offline rendering capabilities for this open space software, so that you can create up to 16K videos, which can be also playback stereoscopically in a much more detailed way. So for this immersive real-time production, there are some challenges, as I had mentioned with these 2 projects. Doing offline rendering, you get much higher resolution and more detail, but for sure, you're missing interactivity and real-time control of the content. So basically, what's interesting also in the aspect of dome theaters is how to combine this both worlds. And this is now something that I would like to look at here also with the work that we did. And the environment that I refer to, the Deep Space 8K, is a L-shaped VR environment using 8 4K projectors. which also can do stereoscopic rendering. Here you see basically how this environment is being used or for presentations to the audience. But the main challenge that we also have here for immersive video content, and in this case for 360 content, is that for 360 video, only like 1/3 or 1/4 of the video is visible at one time, which means that the frame itself needs to have a much larger resolution so that you can render to 8K projection environments. So you see basically that even 16K resolution is not enough to achieve basically the native resolution of the planar screen, as this is then 4K by 4K. So this is definitely a challenge that we try to address in this project. And what we worked on were actually two projects, which really brought basically also 360 video to a new level. And first one was basically the Great Pyramid project, where we used point cloud rendered videos in 12K resolution, stereoscopic, to play back basically in the deep space 8K environment. Here you can see basically some impressions of this project. I'm sorry. And what we basically did is we combined in the Unity 3D engine this very high resolution 360 videos with a real-time rendering and interactive video player. So basically, visitors can control so basically to look around and stop the video and basically have a more interactive form of presentation. Going forward, this had been done basically by the integration also of video codecs that have been developed by Spin Digital into a Unity plugin, which can be used basically for projects like that. This has also been available on our website. So I just want to mention that this Deep Space Development Kit, which is basically something like a starting project for immersive environments using the Unity 3D engine, is available as open source there, and also video player integrations will be coming, so that basically it becomes easier to create applications like that. And using these tools, we are able to create basically based on the same data, also a head-mounted display version of the Great Pyramid, basically also just to show how to work for very different environments with the same core technology and the same data. What we're looking at the moment is basically another project which will be premiered at the RE.Conf Festival this year, which is also using 3D rendered point clouds, but at a much higher resolution. So in this case, the frames are 30K by 15K pixels. And the reason is that this is the resolution which is actually needed to achieve basically this visual quality that you see here. So what you see here is a comparison of the pre-rendered quality in the resolution that we will be using and the Unreal Engine, which is also supporting point cloud rendering, and what is possible when you do the whole thing in real time. And both, basically what we're working on is to combine both of these forms of visualization. So as I see, the time is already over, so I thank you very much for your time. And if there are questions, I don't know, Maciej.
Thank you, Roland. That was really impressive. That is really impressive to watch this interactive content in deep space. I know it. So I think the next opportunity will be during Ars Electronica Festival in Linz. Can you tell something more about the event and invite our listeners?
Yes, for sure. So the Ars Electronica Festival will take place this year from the 9th of September to the 13th of September. Also for us, it's very challenging to do a festival. But there will be on-site festival. Also during this festival, there will be the official presentation of the project that I just mentioned. in the Deep Space AK environment, but we will also have a lot of online content for visitors that cannot come to Linz this year. So to also give you possibilities to participate remotely.
Okay, thank you. I hope we'll see each other in Linz. And our last presenter today is Ravi Velal, Global Content Policy Strategist at Intel Corporation. And Ravi is not a member of Immersify, but he works with immersive cinema systems and volumetric imaging. And he can tell something about how he sees our project from the outside. Ravi?
Sure. Thanks to be outsider, but not totally outsider, as you know, with collaborating with Mauricio Spin Digital for God, like 4 or 5 years now. And great presentation, by the way. All of you covered really good point in Mauricio presentation, especially 16K and 6DOF. And other presentation we saw that you push the boundaries of volumetric to 3.5 trillion pixels. And that's not a joke, as you know. And last presentation that we see is we should not be limiting ourselves just in the box of HMD for virtual reality or immersive experience. Let's take this out so that we can watch it not just in HMD, but any projection display or so on, and clearly get a benefit of this immersive. So I just have a compilation of some of my projects here that we did on behalf of Intel, production on the Hollywood. And I believe we only have 7 to 8 minutes. So I'll go as fast as I can, but feel free to stop. And there are some videos, but because of time constraint, I'll post a link and feel free to download or watch those videos and full blog there. So you don't need to record or take any notes here at this time. Just some of the technologies that we saw, pretty much like at the base of it's as an Intel, right from the advanced processors to 5G, you require a lot of high-speed memory, such as Intel 3D Optane. We need a better interconnect, such as a Thunderbolt. Then we need a lot of artificial intelligence to process this humongous amount of data. I mean, some of the parallel encoding that we are doing with parallel processing we are doing for the 8K or 16K encoding, and even taking those things and transferring it over the 5G, all of this thing has to come together. Then vision and depth tracking using a MoviDS as well as Intel RealSense camera, which I have going to show one example. And of course, from the data center side, we need lots and lots of processing power to process. And I recall when 2017 or 18, I believe 18, when Mauricio and I, we did 16K at Intel NAB booth. That time there was no 8K display available. So we have to mount 16 4K display in 4x4 configuration. And we remember getting the 16K file took us overnight to encode and bring it back onto the playable format, which require like a high quality rendering workstation from Intel to process that much data. And now there's a lot more faster thing we can do, including 8K real-time live encoding and so on. So again, my focus here is not going to be talk much about the technology, but how we are doing this transformation from pixels to voxel in Hollywood and beyond. So I took cherry pick some of the example. Feel free to take a look at link, Google it, you'll find it, or I'll post it on the Twitter as well. And you can download and see some of the videos. Because of time, we will not be able to show all the videos here. So again, a lot of them here, since it's a Cannes Film Festival, those are the producers and the director of nature. So breaking the fourth wall. Fourth wall is a very well-known jargon in the area of film production. So we are breaking that fourth wall by any size volumetric production. So some of the examples that you have seen are those are the tools, are very high-end niche tools available for big studios or the big research lab. But as a content creator, you don't have to limit yourself to that. You can take this one and pretty much using the existing off the shelf, you can create a very low-end kind of proof of concept volumetric experiences, and that's kind of a goal. So from a tabletop or scanning, one object to a human and a room scale, which you see here, Herbie Hancock holding hands. He's a volumetric office. There's a project Hands Around the World that Intel is involved. We composed this song recently with A.R. Rahman, Hands Around the World, and that has a volumetric aspect to it as a part of overall project for the climate change. And on the right side, you can see a Repangia, which is the project done in Brazil by Museum of Tomorrow, which is very similar to some of the museums in Europe. very state-of-the-art technology museum where we did the first volumetric project in Brazil, and then Intel Studio Greece project, which we showcased last year at Cannes Film Festival. And this year also we did mid half of last year, Spider-Man over 5G, which we launched at Mobile World Congress last year, and the single player Spider-Man. And that Spider-Man, we actually captured a Tony Stark jet in a full volumetric at a sub-millimeter point. If you get a time, we should be able to see the video here real quick. Hepangia is a project that was done using the Intel RealSense camera. So right now you have a tool taking like $300–400 Intel RealSense camera and capture a depth. So everything starts with a story. Since this is a part of cinema, it's a story meets the tech is a theme that we would like to address and push. And here is a little bit behind the scene video, which I will skim really quick. It's a techno-shamanic experience from Amazonian tribe, Chikuna and Tupinamba. Those are the tribal people we use to kind of preserve their ancestral knowledge of mindfulness and bring it in interactive. And you can see here lip motion was used. And behind me is a volumetric of that particular project. So let me just skip this for the sake of time right now. So hopefully this will work.
And we are glad we are able to bring Intel technologies, these experiences imagined with Intel. And it's very wonderful to experience, and I hope you will get a chance to experience this.
So this is how we took the volumetric technology and using a team at Museo da Humana, directed by Marcela Sabino and their team in Brazil. And we basically took this technology, able to bring some Amazonian tribal people and bring their culture to mainstream audience, which was seen by 6,000 to 8,000 people in Museum of Tomorrow in Rio de Janeiro. So that's from the room scale of volumetric, but what it does for the cinema. So there are two experiences I would like to really share just to show you the magnitude of the magnum opus productions that is going on in the Hollywood, which Intel was part of this project. So first I would like to showcase the Spider-Man, which available for free for download for Spider-Man in virtual reality, but how we leverage that one for creating the volumetric with Intel, Sony, Dell, Delight joint initiative called a Sony Innovation Studio. Just take a look at it.
This really is the next step. It's bigger, it's crazier, and just like the movie, our VR experience on the consoles around the world, it's going to be amazing.
In virtual reality, the power that you need can only be delivered by Intel.
In order to bring Spider-Man to life, it requires amazing technologies that Intel will deliver like never been experienced before.
All of our workstations have Intel Xeon scalable processors in them, and they've been really proven to be invaluable.
Intel's been very good at focusing on where those bottlenecks are in our pipeline and bring all of that compiling time, all that generation time down so we can focus on what really matters.
We'll also be delivering the first volumetric capture and display.
Tony Stark's jet. We went out and captured that practical set.
Partnered with Intel here at Innovation Studios. We did what's called a volumetric image acquisition.
We employ real-world sampling. There's no mesh and there's no texture. It's actually made of billions of points, all sampled from reality itself, and then virtualized.
We have billions upon billions of sub-millimeter points. The processing that's required can really only be achieved through the use of the power of the process that Intel has. I felt like I was truly there.
We put together the best team possible with all these great partners to deliver the greatest VR experience.
This is where the storytellers meet the technology to deliver something amazing.
It really shows what you can do in the future.
What we came up with was...
So again, this is also like the world's largest volumetric studio. My colleague Sarah Wick is presenting in 1 hour at ConXR. Feel free to take a look at it so she can go in much more detail. And by the way, these videos are available on link. This is a Greece volumetric song. For a 3.5 minute, we process more than 5 trillion pixels. So that just gives you like a sheer magnitude of the production and what it can be done, and able to bring this experience into this tabletop. And with that, actually, since we are literally like coming close, and by the way, these videos are available. I just want to like close my presentation with one comment. I mean, all this experience that we saw from the Immersify project, which I witnessed their journey from last 3-4 years, and working with Mauricio for a long time on this encoding and many other projects. So we have right now volumetric technology available to us from room scale all the way to like Hollywood Get Productions. Those are technology being used right now wholeheartedly. And with times such as pandemic, imagine in future, you might not need any green screen. Literally, you can shoot a movie from your home and the whole set, digital set acquisition is captured around you. And that's the promise of this technology for future of filmmakers. And that is our humble, this is our humble attempt to bring it to the world, that what this technology can do, the wonders. So with that, actually, we would like to thank everybody, and thank you very much, Majek and Cecile and all the team at ConXR. Too bad we could not able to bring those technologies this time at Cannes Film Festival. Otherwise, this could have been our 8th or 10th ConXR presentation in terms of all the installation that we did at last 2 years at ConXR. Thank you very much. I'm open for any questions now.
Okay, thank you, Ravi, and thanks for being our keynote speaker today and a special guest. I think we have some time for 1 or 2 more questions. So let me ask Eric about 360 production, and how do you see future of 360 video in context of resolution and difficulties in post-production? As you mentioned, you constructed 360 rig special for high resolution, and you use a laser scanner. So how do you see the future and the difficulties?
Again, the question is how we solve the live stitchings. So we have more and more resolution, the cameras available, but we need solutions for high quality stitching of the video live in high frame rate. So I think we have a lot of experience in that, and we do some new software development for that. But there is room for new experiences and new solutions. And in my opinion, live 360 will be more impressive for the audience than recorded material. So that will bring live events directly to home, and the experience to attend in a live event and to look around to see everything in high quality will be much nicer to see. As an alternative to standard, let's say, of course, 2D.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's a time for finishing our talks today. So thank you everybody for watching us and for being with us Thursday evening, Paris time, of course. I hope we'll be able to see each other and see our listeners next year during Cannes XR in Cannes. And you can find more information about Immersify, about the project and our developments, our content on our webpage, immersify.eu, on Facebook and Twitter. As we mentioned previously, it's the end of the research project, but we would like to collaborate anyway with our partners and do next impressive tools and next impressive content. Okay, so thank you everybody, and see you.
Thank you very much,
everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.